I mean, think of your absolute best friend. Like, really picture them right now.
Okay, I've got someone in mind.
Good. Now, I want you, the listener, to ask yourself a really uncomfortable question. Are you friends with them because they genuinely make you a better person? Or, and be honest here, because keeping them around subconsciously makes you feel superior?
Oh, wow. That is a brutal question.
It's savage, right? But today, we are completely tearing down the illusion that human connection is simple. We are jumping into this deep dive to look at a profound philosophical paradox that you and I, well, we live it out every single day, whether we realize it or not.
Yeah, it really is the ultimate puzzle of human behavior. We're looking at our fundamental relationship with what philosophers call the other. And before we go any further, I mean, we probably need to define that.
Definitely. Because it sounds a bit sci-fi.
Right, yeah. The other isn't just, a stranger on the bus. It is literally anyone who is not you. It's your spouse, your boss, your rival. Philosophically speaking, the other is the mirror by which we construct our own identity.
Wait, really? Like, we need them to figure out who we are.
Exactly. You literally cannot know who you are without someone else to compare yourself to.
Which honestly makes our contact lists, like all those neat little categorized folders on our phones, seem incredibly inadequate.
Oh, completely.
You look at your phone and it gives you this illusion that the social landscape is perfectly organized, but you step out into the real world and it's absolute chaos out there.
It's totally messy.
Right. I mean, we have siblings who would take a bullet for each other, and then we have coworkers who will literally throw you under the bus for like a tiny minor promotion. So today's deep dive is a mission to figure out what is actually driving that chaos. Beneath all those neat little labels, what is the fundamental essence of human connection? So, okay, let's unpack this.
Well, the central tension we really have to navigate here is whether human beings are, naturally wired to support one another and build each other up.
The optimistic view.
Right. Or if we are inherently locked in this constant subconscious struggle for dominance. And to figure that out, we are going to look through three completely different philosophical lenses today.
Awesome.
We're going to start with the absolute ideal of what human connection could be, and then we were going to slowly descend into the gritty, sometimes really uncomfortable reality of human psychology.
I am always ready to descend into the gritty reality.
Yeah.
But let's start up in the clouds, right? Let's start with ancient Greece, specifically Aristotle, who offers probably the most, optimistic view of how we should relate to one another.
He really does. So Aristotle frames our relationship with the other entirely around the concept of virtue.
Okay, virtue.
Yeah. And for him, connecting with others isn't just like a nice bonus to a good life. It is an absolute biological and moral necessity if you want to be fully human.
So it's not optional.
Not at all. He argues that virtue, which he defines as noble moral excellence, is the exact mechanism that separates human beings from mere animalistic instincts.
Right, because animals aren't out there pondering morality.
Exactly. If you look at animals, they are driven by basic survival, right? Raw appetite, territorial conflict. But humans possess the capacity for a higher rationality. And he says the ultimate highest expression of that rationality is friendship.
But he doesn't just mean like adding someone on social media or liking their posts.
No, not at all.
Because Aristotle breaks friendship down into three distinct categories. And honestly, it is almost eerie how perfectly a guy from ancient Greece describes modern networking.
It's kind of wild, isn't it?
It really is. So the first tier he identifies is the friendship of pleasure, which is essentially kids playing together at a park or buddies you only see when you go out for drinks.
Right, the fun friends.
Yeah, it is entirely conditional. The bond is based purely on the immediate emotional payoff, and the second the fun stops, the friendship evaporates.
And it evaporates because the foundation is fundamentally shallow. The other, in that scenario, is essentially just a tool for your own entertainment.
Right.
Which leads to his second category, the friendship of utility.
Yes.
This is a bond based entirely on mutual benefit. As long as you are useful to me and I am useful to you, we're friends.
Which is pretty much the exact definition of the modern corporate world.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It's the work bestie. You grab coffee every day,
Yeah.
you complain about the boss, you collaborate on projects,
But the day you change jobs.
you literally never speak to them again.
But let me push back on Aristotle here for a second, because why are pleasure and utility framed as these lesser, almost deficient things?
Yeah.
I mean, they make the world go round. I need the guy at the hardware store to just be useful to me. I don't need to, deeply bond with him over our childhood trauma.
No, you're right. Utility is totally necessary for society to function. But Aristotle's point is that if your entire life is built only on pleasure and utility, you are spiritually starving.
Spiritually starving, wow.
Yeah, because in those first two categories, you aren't actually valuing the person. You're valuing the service they provide.
You're commodifying them.
Exactly. You are reducing a human being to an instrument. And that brings us to his third category, which is true friendship, or the friendship of virtue.
The holy grail of relationships.
Right. This is where you value the other entirely for who they are and their essence, not what they can do for you.
But practically speaking, why is that so essential? I mean, let's take the ultimate extreme. Picture a billionaire.
Okay, infinite resources.
Yeah, someone with infinite money. They can buy all the utility they could ever need. They can hire 1,000 assistants. They can buy infinite pleasure. So why can't they just bypass this deep, vulnerable virtue friendship altogether?
Because you cannot buy a mirror for your soul.
Oh, that's good.
Aristotle actually argues that the richer and more powerful you are, the more you need true friends. Because think about it, you are surrounded by sycophants who only offer utility.
Just yes men everywhere.
Exactly. And he uses very specific age-based examples to prove why true friendship is the only way we actually practice being human.
Like what?
Well, think about youth. When we are young, our brains are literally underdeveloped. We need true friends to intervene and prevent us from making disastrous, life-altering mistakes.
Oh, I see.
We need honest counsel, not just someone who cheers on our bad ideas because it's fun.
Okay, yeah, the logic tracks there. A friend of pleasure will watch you jump off the roof into the pool, but a friend of virtue will actually take the ladder away.
Precisely. And then jump to the other end of life. As we become elderly, we lose our utility, right? We become physically fragile.
Right.
At that stage, we need care that comes from genuine, deep devotion, not just a transactional arrangement.
Makes sense.
But the most crucial stage is the prime of our lives, when we are strong, capable, ambitious. Aristotle argues we still cannot achieve true greatness in a vacuum.
Because we're blind to our own faults.
Exactly. A true friend acts as a moral mirror. They help us correct our blind spots and refine our character.
Yeah.
You simply cannot practice being a good, virtuous person all by yourself on an isolated island. Virtue requires action, and action requires the other.
So, okay, Aristotle's framework is beautiful. It really
Right.
is. But it operates in this vacuum of one-on-one relationships. It's highly intimate.
It is.
But when you scale that up to a society of millions relying on deep personal virtue, completely breaks down.
It hits a wall.
A massive logistical wall. I mean, I can't be deep soul-mirroring friends with the person who pays my roads or the person who farms my food. So do I still owe something to them?
That exact logistical wall is what brings us to our second philosophical lens.
Yeah.
And this is the 19th century French sociologist Auguste Comte.
Okay, Comte.
Comte completely zooms out. He shifts the scale from personal one-on-one affection to a massive, unavoidable societal debt.
A debt.
Yes. He argues that our relationship with the vast majority of the other cannot be based on friendship. It's just mathematically impossible.
Yep.
It must be based on a concept he famously coined, which is altruism.
Meaning living for others.
Yes, living for others,
Yeah.
which he positions as the direct evolutionary opposite of egoism.
Which is living purely for oneself. But if you are listening to this right now, you might be thinking, wait a minute. I work 50 hours a week. I pay my own bills. I pay my taxes. I am completely self-sufficient.
Sure, that's the modern mindset.
Yeah. It feels incredibly aggressive for Comte to just say we owe our lives to absolute strangers. Frankly, if I owe an infinite debt to humanity, then I'm basically just a slave to the collective. Doesn't that mindset completely crush individual innovation?
It absolutely challenges the very core of our modern individualistic mindset. But Comte's counterargument is devastatingly practical.
Lay it on me.
Look around at literally everything you use to survive right now. The electrical grid powering your home, the medical knowledge that keeps you alive, the internet infrastructure you use every single day. None of that was created by you.
Obviously not.
It was built by a massive invisible army of people stretching back across centuries. Generations of inventors, laborers, scientists, and everyday workers literally died to lay the foundation for your current existence.
Oh, wow. So, to use a modern analogy, Comte is basically saying human society is like a giant open source software project.
Oh, that's a perfect way to look at it.
Right. Like, you didn't write the core code, you just downloaded it for free the day you were born.
Yes.
And now you are building your little app on top of it, claiming you are a self-made genius, completely ignoring the millions of developers who built the operating system.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it.
Yeah.
Even the most active, brilliant, seemingly self-made individual cannot possibly repay even a fraction of what that open source human project has already given them.
We're born into debt.
You were born into a world of immense intellectual and material wealth that you simply did not earn. Comte argues that acknowledging this debt is the only rational response. And he goes further.
Further how?
He defines the alternative egoism as literally animalistic.
Animalistic. How so? Like survival of the fittest type stuff.
Exactly. In the wild, animals exist solely for themselves. They hunt for their own caloric intake. They survive for their own immediate benefit. But humans, because we have complex rationality, we can observe the world and realize that independent existence is a total myth.
It's an illusion.
To pretend you are self-sufficient, to act selfishly, is to intentionally devolve your consciousness back into an animal state. You are denying the reality of your own ecosystem.
And this is where Comte delivers an absolute gut punch to modern sensibilities. Because I know what he says next, and it's wild.
Yeah.
He argues that even if you work incredibly hard, but you only care for your immediate family, you are still fundamentally trapped in egoism.
Yes. He calls it extended egoism.
Which is crazy, because society constantly tells us that providing for your family is the ultimate moral good.
It's the American dream.
Exactly. Why on earth is it selfish to take care of my kids?
Well, think about the mechanism behind it. Why do you care for your family?
I mean, because I love them.
Right. But biologically, because they share your DNA. Because they carry your legacy. Because they provide you with emotional comfort.
Out.
Comte argues that if you only serve a tiny circle of people who directly benefit you and reflect your own identity, you are still essentially just serving your own interests.
You've just drawn a slightly larger circle around your ego.
Exactly. You haven't made the evolutionary leap to true altruism, which is serving the human project itself, regardless of biological connection.
Man. So we have to transition from egoism to altruism just to pay off the rent for existing in human society.
It is an incredibly high bar.
It really is. And honestly, both Aristotle and Comte, they sound inspiring. They really map out this noble, beautiful trajectory for human connection.
They do.
But let's be real for a second. If we are so noble and if we owe each other so much, why is the world so incredibly toxic?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right. Why is there so much backstabbing, jealousy, and manipulation? If Comte is right about our rational altruism, my contact list shouldn't feel like a minefield.
And that glaring contradiction is exactly why we have to bring in our third philosopher.
Enter Alexandre Kojève.
Yes. Kojève forcefully yanks us out of the clouds of Aristotle's virtue and Comte's societal duty, and he drops us face first into the messy, uncomfortable machinery of human psychology.
He basically looks at all that noble altruism and says, yeah, I don't buy it.
He doesn't buy it at all. Kojève argues that our fundamental relationship with the other isn't based on virtue, and it isn't based on altruistic debt. At its absolute primal core, our relationship with the other is based on conflict.
Wait, let's pause there. Conflict.
Conflict.
Like we all secretly want to punch each other? Because I honestly don't feel a violent urge toward the barista who makes my coffee.
No, it is much more insidious than physical violence. Kojève is famous for his deep interpretation of a concept called the master and slave dialectic.
Okay, unpack that for us.
He argues that every single human interaction is an invisible subconscious battle for recognition.
Recognition.
Human beings are driven by a desperate need to prove our own reality, to assert our ego. And the only way to prove you are significant is to have someone else acknowledge it.
Ah, I see.
Therefore, in every relationship, we are constantly subconsciously trying to subjugate the other. We want to be recognized as the master, which inherently requires the other person to submit as the slave.
So it's not gladiatorial combat, because
Okay.
if you destroy the other person in the arena, they can't validate how awesome you are.
Exactly.
You need them alive to be your audience. You need them to clap.
You need them alive to be your audience. That is the perfect distillation of the master-slave dynamic. If I destroy you physically, there is no conscious mind left to recognize my superiority.
Right.
I need you to exist, but I need you to exist in a state of ideological or social submission to my ideas, my status, or my worldview. I only know I am smart if you admit that I am smarter than you.
This explains so much about everyday passive-aggressive behavior.
Doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a specific manifestation of this from the source material, which is the inferior friend dynamic. Because this is something that is so common, but people are utterly terrified to admit they do it.
It is piercing. Kojève's framework suggests that we frequently and often totally subconsciously curate our social circles to include people who are slightly less knowledgeable, less successful, or less confident than we are.
And we tell ourselves we're doing it to be nice. Like, oh, I'm just mentoring them. I'm just giving them advice.
Right, the noble mentor.
But really, what is the mechanism there? We are creating a controlled environment where we get to play the master. When that friend comes to us with a crisis and we dispense our profound wisdom and they nod and say, wow, you're so right, they are submitting.
They are validating your superiority.
Exactly. We find our own sense of perfection in their deficiency. The friendship isn't based on Aristotle's virtue at all. It is literally just an arena we built to feed our own ego.
We extract validation from their perceived lower status, and the moment that inferior friend suddenly gets a better job than us or achieves something we haven't, what happens?
The friendship mysteriously falls apart.
Exactly. Why? Because the master-slave dynamic was disrupted. The audience stopped clapping and stepped onto the stage.
That is painfully accurate. And there's another brilliant analogy in the source material to explain how this conflict works regarding domains of mastery, the two mechanics.
Yes, this perfectly illustrates the domain issue.
Yeah.
Imagine two highly skilled mechanics working side by side in the same garage.
Okay.
It is incredibly rare for them to have a pure, friction-free friendship. Why? Because they operate in the exact same domain of recognition.
They're competing for the same slice of the pie.
Precisely. Every single time a broken car rolls into the shop, there is a subtle, unspoken psychological war. Who diagnoses the engine knock faster? Who rebuilds the transmission better?
Right.
They are constantly battling for the exact same validation. It is a perpetual master-slave negotiation over who's the ultimate authority in that garage.
But, and this is where the psychology gets fascinating, if you take one of those mechanics and put them next to, say, a master electrician, suddenly they can be best friends.
They can drink beers and have zero friction.
Exactly, because the mechanic doesn't care that the electrician knows more about breaker panels, and the electrician doesn't care that the mechanic knows more about fuel injectors.
Their domains of mastery do not overlap, which means the conflict is neutralized. There is no threat to their specific claim to recognition.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
But the moment domains do overlap, Kojève argues that friction is practically inevitable. Our ego simply cannot tolerate having our core sense of identity challenged by someone doing the exact same thing we are doing, but doing it better. We need to be recognized as the master of our chosen domain.
Man, this is a lot to process. We have looked at this messy, chaotic contact list of humanity through three vastly different frameworks today.
It's a journey.
We started with Aristotle, dreaming of perfect virtue, telling us we need deep mirroring bonds to achieve our highest moral selves.
Right?
Then we scaled up with Comte, who demanded absolute selflessness, arguing that we owe an infinite debt to the open source project of humanity, and that anything less is basically animalistic egoism.
A very heavy debt.
And finally, we hit a wall with Kojève, who points out that actually we're mostly just competing for ego points, desperately seeking an audience to validate our existence.
And synthesizing these three perspectives gives us an incredibly robust, if slightly unsettling, map of human nature.
Unsettling is the word.
On one hand, you have the positive, constructive foundations. Aristotle and Comte represent our highest capacities, the profound heights of mutual support, character refinement, and honoring our shared human ecosystem.
The angels on our shoulder.
Exactly. But Kojève provides the indispensable negative counterweight. He forces us to acknowledge the hidden machinery of conflict, ego, and our relentless appetite for validation.
It is like we are constantly caught in a tug-of-war between wanting to be a saint who serves humanity and wanting to be the undisputed king of the castle.
And the truth is, neither framework is entirely wrong. We are genuinely capable of profound, breathtaking altruism, but we are simultaneously driven by a deeply ingrained need for recognition that inevitably generates friction.
We're both at the same time.
You cannot truly understand the other until you accept that both of these forces are operating at the exact same time in almost every interaction.
So as we wrap up, I want you to think about your own life today. Think about that contact list on your phone. Tomorrow, when you are texting a friend, when you are collaborating with a coworker on a project, or even when you are arguing with a complete stranger in the comment section of a video stop.
Just take a second.
Yeah, stop and ask yourself, which invisible force is actually driving your behavior in that exact microsecond? Are you genuinely trying to build an Aristotelian virtue and be a better person?
Or are you acting out of Comte's altruism to repay your debt to humanity?
Or are Are you just playing Kojève's game, looking for a slave to recognize you as the master?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, imagine a complete outsider, maybe an advanced AI or an alien anthropologist, arriving today and analyzing our modern social media feeds.
Oh, that would be terrifying.
They look at all the retweets, the likes, the viral arguments, the carefully curated photos. Would they look at that vast, intricate digital network and conclude that human beings have finally built a monument to Comte's altruism, freely sharing ideas to uplift the global community? Or would they look at the exact same data and conclude that we've simply built a massive, glowing global arena designed entirely for Kojève's conflict? A place where billions of people are desperately fighting for recognition, just trying to be the master of a fleeting digital moment.
That is a brilliant and slightly terrifying question to leave off on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the philosophy of the other. Keep looking closely at your relationships and never stop questioning the hidden whys behind your everyday human connections.